We're talking ham breakfast and KFB policy resolutions on this month's edition of Farm to Frankfort. Eddie, so we just had one of the biggest events that we have here at Kentucky Farm Bureau, Kentucky Farm Bureau Day at the Fair, where we kick it off with the country ham breakfast, and we had another record year. What do you think about it this year?
You know, it was a great turnout, and I think this was our 59th ham breakfast. But we had a record price for the ham. Central Bank and Luther Deaton, and then Joe and Kelly Craft got the bidding off. Farm Credit was there bidding also, but the two winners were Central Bank and the Crafts, and made it an exciting time. And they got together and paid $5 million apiece for a total of $10 million for the ham, so that's always an exciting time. And then, of course, we have all the speeches by all of our elected officials, and kicked it off with the mayor of Louisville. He was new in his position. He did an outstanding job. And then the governor, and then both of our senators, and then Commissioner Ryan Quarles ended up before we auctioned the ham off. So it was a really good day for Kentucky Farm Bureau. Absolutely.
And we got to hear about a little bit of the Farm City, and it being the largest Farm City event in the state. And I think that's so important. What we do on the farm and with the consumers in the city that take in our products. So I think it's a really important day highlighting that. So we got to do what's best of Farm Bureau. We got to meet and eat and hear about Farm Bureau policy.
That's
so
right.
It's a great day.
And got to eat country ham too, so I think people look forward to that. But about 1,600 people, I think, came and enjoyed the day with us. It was a room full, and we just really have a good time that, as you said, bringing the farm and the city folks together and talking about why agriculture is important to Kentucky Farm Bureau.
Absolutely. And speaking of agriculture and policy, we are right in the heart of really KFB policy resolutions. So we talked about it a little bit back in July, but as we're kind of getting into September and into October, this is really where all the policies start to be submitted from our advisory committees and our county resolutions. We're starting to see some of those come in now.
They are, Kyle, and it's always, as you said, our advisory committees are beginning to meet, and they've been going on probably about a month now. It takes a while to get the 20-some-odd committees that we have as they all come in and meet, and those producers come in and talk about their industry and what's important to them, and all the advisory committees we have, and come up with topics that we can bring and talk to our resolutions committee about here in the first part of November. So it's always a good time to do that. And then the county farm bureaus, they actually have their policy development meetings, and they present those at their annual meetings. So those are ongoing too, and those will go through mid-October, first part of October, mid-October. Those resolutions have to be in here on October the 15th, so we can compile them, and then the resolutions committee comes in November and see what issues are out there important to our membership this year.
That's right. You're the in-house expert on the policy resolutions. How many years has it been? Have you been chair of the resolutions committee?
Well, this will be my 14th year. This year it was 13 years before this year, so 14 years that I've been chairman of the resolutions committee, and then I actually served on the resolutions committee for 6 years before I was elected to the board. So I've been a part of the policy process for our organization. I think one thing that we hear out of people that have been around Farm Bureau for a while, that being on the resolutions committee, if you really want to know what Farm Bureau is about and what we stand for, come to a resolutions committee meeting and find out all the policies that are brought in. And as we go through every one of those, a lot of times we get close to 1,000 resolutions that come in every year, that we discuss each and every one of them, or you and your team discuss each and every one of them that we talk about, whether it's already in policy or if it's not, then we have a discussion, and sometimes our discussions can go long in those committee meetings, but that's what our democratic process is about, that we can talk about the issues, find out what's best, and then take them to our delegates in December, and they get the ultimate decision of whether we put it in our policy book or not at that delegate session.
Yeah, and you mentioned we get close to 1,000 a year resolutions, and I know one thing from Frankfort and talking to the state legislators in Frankfort, one of the most impressive things isn't just the number, but it's the fact that it's from all 120 counties. Every single county submits policy resolutions, and then the 20-something advisory committees that specialize in all the different commodity groups, education, safety, insurance. When you put all those together, and just the raw amount of people that are involved in the process, that means something to legislators in Frankfort and also our congressional delegation in Washington to know that it were their constituents that were sending in policies that we go to Frankfort and Washington to support or oppose.
And I think that's one reason that we do have the clout that we have in Frankfort and Washington, D.C. is because those legislators all know that actually comes from the grassroots, the producers and the people on our county boards and on our advisory committees that come up with these policies, and then our democratic process that we go through, that everybody has their say in it before we pass it. And it's not a couple of people at the top trying to decide what the policy is, but it's actually the grassroots organization that does those policies.
Yep, 100%. We have months worth of groups sending in policy, and then 2.5 days in November through Resolutions Committee, and then we meet 2 days leading up to annual meeting, and then we're on the floor that Friday of annual meeting for the policy development process. So it's a long time in the making, but you're right. The democratic process we go through, I think, carries a ton of weight in Frankfort and Washington.
It does, and the one thing that I feel good about too is that if a county farm bureau sends an idea and it doesn't make it through the resolutions committee, there's always that process that it can be brought up from the floor on a Friday afternoon of our annual meeting when we go through that someone can bring it up there, and if it passes, then it goes in the policy book. So it's quite a process that we go through to get to that, but it's worked for this organization for well over 100 years, and we're really excited to keep doing it. And I don't see our organization ever change how we get policy.
And policies are coming in. We've been breaking those down, putting them where they kind of go into our policy book, and we go through each and every single one of them. If there's 1,000 submitted, we read all 1,000, and I know you mentioned that. And it's that time of the year, and we're enjoying it, going through policy. Any kind of closing comments on the policy process, or maybe any certain kind of policy resolutions that you're kind of hearing throughout the Commonwealth as you're traveling the roads?
There's always things that continue to come up, but there's always transportation issues and, of course, tax issues with Farm Bureau. There's always some tax issue that's out there that people are concerned about, so I'm sure we'll get some of those things. And, of course, with all the storms and the disasters that we've had for our insurance company this year, I'm sure we'll hear some things from some of those too as we go through our resolutions process.
Yeah. Well, Eddie is our in-house policy expert in our resolutions committee. Thank you for breaking that down and keeping us all informed. So thank you, Eddie.
Thanks, Kyle. And I know you're sporting a new wedding ring here.
That's right.
So wanted to roll that out. Congratulations to you and Gracie for y'all's wedding. Got married this weekend, so had quite the event there. So
yes,
congratulations
to
you and Gracie.
It's been a great first week of marriage. So thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that. So thank you.